Nigeria on the march again.
On the march again.
Looking for Mr. President.
On the march again.
Adebayo is our man. He's our man.
Now he go make our country better.
He's our man.
For progress and a better tomorrow.
He's our man.
Make you vote for Rambo, my brother.
He's our
I
man.
make you vote for Rambo, my sister.
He's our man.
Everybody make una vote for Rambo.
He's our man.
Now be our only hope.
He's our man.
I say
The nexus between foreign policy and national interest, you have indicated that the national interest being the totality of the particularistic political individual interests that now come under national interest. That is what pushes our foreign policy from pre-independence to independence, post-independence. But there's something that is now missing. The economy has been a constraint to what it used to be. I was very happy that you were mentioning quite a lot of those career people that you know. Lawrence Fabumi, late Lawrence Fabumi, who was a DG in this institute, was one of the foundation members of the Association of Retired Career Ambassadors. And we have quite a lot of them. We have, I think you can ask for.
Yes.
We have Adebayo'S, we have Ogunsulere, who is a surviving member of the first 12 apostles. Those 12 apostles were the ones that started foreign ministry. Himself and Asiodu were the surviving ones.
Yes.
But Asiodu moved to the home service. We are knowledgeable, we have been exposed, even though we are not well taken care of. And I'm happy that you said one of the things you were going to do is to volunteer. It's ridiculous to hear what retired career ambassadors are going through. But I'm not going to go into that. What is important to me is two questions. First, how are you going to choose your ambassador? Is it going to be 50-50 career and 50 non-career? Or is it going to be 60-40? Or is it going to be 80-40? Because there are 30 loyalists.
First, when we're looking at our mission and composing the envoys, we are going to follow Adebayo'S guidance, where we are talking about beneficial and constructive diplomacy. So it's not a magic one of ratio. The person must be able to have consultation. We must have envoys that are capable of being consulted, which means that when we are choosing our envoys, it is not as a political reward, and it's not an automatic promotion in the civil service, where people say, please just promote me, send me anywhere, even Benin Republic. I want to retire on consolidated salary. Even if I don't speak French, send me to Togo. I will manage. We don't want that. Both the career side and the non-career side, there will be people that the NRA will screen and say, where are you sending this person to? I'll say, I'm sending it to Sweden. They will say, yes, he can go there. So it's on merit. But we'll do both sides. So if we find more meritorious ambassadors in the career line, we'll take them. There are many places where you can send politicians to. I'm going to set up cocoa farms and all of that. They will go and manage them for me. You know, but there are other things. These people have to be effective because we have to do economic diplomacy, we have to do security diplomacy, we have to do humanitarian diplomacy, we have to do cultural diplomacy. So people have to be capable of being useful to the country before we send them out. So that is what we will do with respect to that. Then the issue of deglobalization. In fact, in scholarship nowadays, the concept of region is no longer geographical. OPEC is a region, because it's an economic region. It's a union of places where you have oil, and you're trying to protect it. So now the world is such that everybody is trying to identify similar interests and consolidate themselves and become a bloc. Nobody wants to speak alone. And what Nigeria will do is to find allies whose interests align with us and ensure that we join as many blocs as possible, provided that we can identify interests. I play a lot of role. I'm very friendly with Morocco, and I've had occasion to go in Morocco and do work for the Moroccan government. But when Morocco wanted to join ECOWAS, I was all over ECOWAS saying, we cannot admit Morocco. I love Morocco. It's a very beautiful place. I love their food. They're very friendly to me. Both the king and the government have been very nice to me. However, if Morocco joins ECOWAS, we have for the first time a geo-strategic enemy inside ECOWAS. So for that reason, stay in the Maghreb there. We can now start to trade. So that is the approach we're going to use in dealing with these regions. So the fact that Ghana joined something, and Ghana is an ECOWAS member, doesn't mean it favors us. Because if there is any alliance regarding cocoa production, for example, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana will not be on our side, because they will say, we don't have as much oil. This is what we have. So we want to be more competitive. So we take it using the prism for our national interest. But when we are already successful, we can be generous.
Thank you very much. I listened attentively to your presentation, and I found it very informative. And I was very happy to hear you say that when you get into government, you would want to control the population of Nigeria. I'm sure you know that as of last year, according to the UN, Nigeria reached about 216 million, becoming the 6th largest, most populated country in the world. And that population accounts for about 2.7% of the global population. And I have also noticed that successive Nigerian governments have kind of turned a blind eye to the unchecked population growth in this country. My question is, how do you intend to control Nigeria's unchecked population growth, knowing fully well that it's a very sensitive issue, considering Nigeria's religion, multi-religion, pluralistic country? How do you intend to do that? I'd like to know the strategies you want to put in place. Thank you.
Demographic analysis is not always quantitative. So any algorithm that you have, if you want to translate it to a graph, you have to have the x-axis and the y-axis. So if you take only quantitative analysis and say, we were 56 million some decades ago, we're now 210 million, oh, we're in trouble. I don't think so. Thomas Malthus was wrong, as we found out later, when he was saying that the world will collapse with increased population, because it didn't account for the advantage we will have in the New World, where British and other Europeans moved to North Africa and other things. So our approach is this: if you have 56 million people and you have only 10% literacy, you have only 10,000 doctors, will it be as productive as if you have 300 million people with 99% literacy? So I am interested in population management to increase the quality of the population. So Nigeria, we are okay if we have the quality of the population. What is ailing us is 20 million children out of school, 1.3 million not being able to sustainably feed themselves, house themselves, have access to education, social welfare, and we have the resources to do that. So this is the area I want to focus on. But there are people who have a numeral approach to it, or numeric approach to it, who are just looking at it in terms of number. And it arose from the classical approach to military warfare, where if you look at this, during the Cold War, they used to count numbers. How many million troops would Soviet Union have? 3 million infantry. So America will say, how do we increase our infantry to 1 billion? So the population mattered at that time. And if you look at the Vietnam War, they used to count the Viet Cong and say, Ho Chi Minh, where does he get his people from? Vietnam is not this big. How is he able to get all these troops? So we're doing body counts. But with warfare now, where you use drone, you use other advanced, you use even space warfare, population doesn't matter. So I think over time, maybe scholarship is lagging behind policy. Over time, they will realize that quality of population is very important. If you look at India, how they manage their population, they've been able to escape the worst. I don't want to talk about China because China is overflocked. But if you look at India, you look at Indonesia, you look at Malaysia, you will see that they've tried to manage their own by way, and they have all kind of religious plurality there. Indonesia is almost 99% Muslim, same thing with Malaysia, majority Muslim. But they've managed to see that if you are able to feed your children, your population, you are able to educate your people, you are able to keep them in school, what's going to happen is that naturally, people who stay in school to become medical doctors are not likely to have babies at the age of 16. So gradually, as you are increasing the population, you are increasing the enlightenment, you are increasing the ability to make complex choices. You are also increasing the expectation that an educated person will want to go to the French Riviera and go and lie down. But my mother didn't know where French Riviera was. She was just raising her children. So, but my sisters want to go to French Riviera and go and relax, so they won't have 7 children. So this is the idea, this is the approach I want to use. But if you look at the approach that multilateral institutions use, and I respect that many people who speak on this field speak on programs sponsored by those people. So you have to speak the language of the donor. And the language of the donor is control, control, control. But to say, for example, a professor of pharmacology who is married to the DG of NIA should have 4 children. And a blind beggar also have 4 children. So every family 4 children. It doesn't make sense in the real world. The real world is that you increase the population, improve their productivity. And Nigeria, we are less than 4% of our allowable productivity, even with the available structure that we have now. So I believe that I can persuade my neighbor to have less children, but I'm more interested in educating the children that he has and making sure that, just like Cuba did, we remove illiteracy, we remove extreme hunger, we remove diseases and all of those things that make people to want to have many children because they don't know which one will survive. We remove other social problems, and I will say that we will be exporting. Look at a country like Philippines. Philippines makes more money from the export of sailors that we make from NNPC. So why will I not export 1 million doctors to the Middle East, to Europe, to everywhere? Why will I not produce 10,000 footballers, each of whom is earning at least $1 million, even they're playing the third? Not everybody earn the modest money that Adebayo earn. Yeah, no. So now anywhere you play, so we can increase the quality, but over time the population will round up very roundly.
Because of your presentation, you've touched so many issues. The truth is, we are living in a world that's a global village, and issues are so cyclical that one thing that you think affects this side, you go to the other side and see that it's affected. So we can see the social parameters that are present in a pluralistic society just as ours. In the course of your presentation, I listened to you. You talk about poverty and how to eradicate poverty and how to improve education. But I've observed that somehow it seems as if you neglect a very special cluster of people, those of us that are called persons living with disability. Though, no matter what we say, in today's world, whether we like it or not, we will find some of us who are studying abroad, just as in the case of what happened in Ukraine. Some of these people were asked to come back home. So, if something happens, sir, what are the specific things that you think you can do if you become the president on how to assist persons living with disability? Of course, we must thank the present government for making it possible to choose a physically challenged person as a special advisor and setting up a special commission for persons living with disability. But all these things are not enough. In the area of, thank God you're also a lawyer, in the area of enforcing disability law has continued to be a problem. And the provision of social welfare packages for those of us who find ourselves in this condition. Remember, it's not a choice. So what are some of your plans to see that you assist
those of us with this kind of condition. Thank you so much, sir.
First, our understanding is that almost everybody is a person with disability. It's just that we don't want to recognize it. And many people in this room will not be able to read unless they're wearing their glasses. So that will bring empathy to all of us, that it is the same way your disability has been enhanced or attenuated, the effect of it. The government should try to pay attention to people's either inborn or acquired disability and to see how we need to resolve it. And there are 4 tools you can use. The first tool is the law. As a lawyer in America, one of the laws we have to enforce is called ADA, America with Disability Act. So it's every aspect of your life. If you have a corporation, you must have people with disability there. If you are setting up a school, the school must give access to people with disability, even building approval. If you don't have a ramp, all those things, they will not let you have a building. So that's number 1. Number 2 is inclusion. Inclusion, and you can see in the SDP, we have in our constitution and our executive at every level, local government, state, ward, state, federal, you must have in your executive people with disability. It is a requirement, otherwise that executive in SDP is not considered properly constituted. The same thing, I'm not saying being a woman is a disability, but the same thing we have for women, the same thing we have for youth. Now, so the third, so we have that inclusion. The third is investment. We must make investment. It doesn't matter how you, I've seen politicians taking pictures with people with disability. But if you don't invest in Braille, if you go to Pacelli School of the Blind, they've made more contribution to literacy of those who are visually impaired, more than any politician giving a pep talk. If you go to other institutions that have been set up, so the idea is to make more investment along that line. The gentleman, I think it's Dr. Akali, who is the special advisor. Yes, he's a very good friend of mine. If you ask, just mention my name, he will tell you. His office is at Federal Secretariat, I think 2nd floor. I usually go there and have discussion with him. So he has been appointed nominally. When we appoint our own, that person will have power. It will not be somebody just announced and left there. We'll make sure that he has ability to access the treasury and to make major contributions. And then thirdly, building infrastructure. Infrastructure is the key. You must have good roads, good amenities, access to internet. If you are with a disability, you do better. It's not you may not be happy about it, but you do better in a country which economy is better, where they can invest in some of the aspects that are reversible. I had a friend of mine who was going blind of recent, and he went to the hospital in Kano, and they said, well, you're not really going blind, we can do something about it. So if we work on that, if we invest in those things, people with disability will reduce in number, and then there will be ability in disability. Even if you are disabled, you look at a national icon, turned global icon like Chinua Achebe. As much as Achebe loved Nigeria, when he had that accident, he could not function here. So he had to go overseas and stay there. But there, in terms of productivity, nobody is disabled. Otherwise, Steve Hawking will not be one of the greatest physicists in the world. So it is where geography has a role to play, and culture has a role to play. And in Nigeria, we will do our best to see that if Steve Hawking was alive, he would want to be in Nigeria, not Britain, in terms of the support we give.
Your Excellency, the presidential candidate of the SDP, I'm most grateful for your enlightening speech. What you find is, of course, you're very informed and you have a great deal of analytical competence. But of course, you know in the business of running the country, what you need are the specifics, the more detailed, how to deal with more detailed issues. the general understanding is very good. It's a more practical understanding is better. Now, we don't have time, so we're going to have very quick questions. My own is about the diplomatic service. Well, that's what. Okay. I saw that you are a little bit generous in talking about, I shall make sure they are well funded. But people say that they are no rule for that it's easy to cook good vegetable soup with your mouth. And you can put pepper there, put salt there, put curry there. At the end of the day, it's a practical thing. I don't know how much you know about the state of Nigerian diplomatic service to be able to make that kind of statement. But the real issue is that we have very serious problems with that diplomatic service. Thank you.
There's no country that I go if I have an opportunity to spare a few hours that I don't go to the Nigerian mission. So whether it's the one in Canberra, I've been there many times, many of the staff know me, whether it's one in London, the High Commission, whether it's one in Washington, D.C., and in many African countries, and many friends who are ambassadors. And there's anyone who is an ambassador that if I am told you're an ambassador, if you finish your mission, I will ask you, are you a career ambassador? Are you a political appointee? When were you posted? What did you achieve? What are the problems there? And I try to do all of that. And I mean world diplomats. Maybe if we had an opportunity, we'll have sent the video of, even when I started this race, I went to the State Department. I went to Foggy Bottom. I met many ambassadors who had handled African affairs before, people like Peter Pham, so many other people. I met as many of the U.S. Secretary of State as I could, former one that I could meet. So I like to ask these questions. So I know the state of our mission. I know mission that we are in rented apartment. I know missions that we built in those glorious days where we built. One of the ones that I enjoyed the most was the one built for us by Ambassador Olusola in Addis Ababa. I think if you look at that, our permanent mission there, you're very happy that it projects Nigeria very well. I saw the opposite side of it when I went to the one in Ghana, and I was trying to get them to meet some people because I was managing some international institutions. And I thought that if I was hosting in Ghana, I'm a Nigerian, let me take them to the Nigerian mission. And we had to meet at the Golden Tulip Hotel. And I said, why are we not able to meet in the High Commission? They said, well, even you cannot take anybody there. The next day I went there, it was in a very terrible state of disrepair. And when I saw a former senator who became a High Commissioner there, when I saw him in London, the first question I asked him, how did you survive? Did you stay in the High Commission? So I know the state of where they are. When I'm in India, I go to the High Commission. So I know the state where they are. I know when a friend of mine became our ambassador in Moscow, I was part of those who raised the fund with which we were able to repair the furniture in that place. So I know the states where they are. I talked to these diplomats. Many of them left their children far away in their former posts. And their wife was supposed to assist them. They will leave normally in diplomatic protocol is protocolar for you to have your spouse with you. But on many occasions, we can't even support the principle, the talk of the spouse. So, and then the wife will stay behind looking after the children. I don't want to say it, but I've had some enviable but happy occasion of paying children, school fees of diplomats' children when they are thrown out. So I know what they go through. And I know some of these issues. I know people who are due for rotation and they're not rotated. I know when some use their money to host events, it takes like 2 years before they could get the money refunded to them. I know also the problems with the Ministry of Finance in the ordering of money in such a way that they send money to you in a manner in some instances where you cannot access the money and so many other things. So I know and I can budget through, and I've been thinking how to budget through some of these things, but I believe that if we commit 1% of our revenue to taking care of our mission for 4 years, we will not be an eyesore anymore. You know, so I've seen, in fact, in Switzerland, I've seen the host telling me about if I can do anything about how irresponsible we were in Switzerland, because we know we have two missions there. We have the one that is our own, have the one for the trade. So both sides have the same problem. So I've been working on those things.
Thank you very much. And well, I will look at security. I want to thank you for your time for looking inwards first and to Amarachi and to the public. So I'm really concerned about security and the Sahel. We recall was created around 2017 by France to provide concrete responses to the challenges of security around Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, Sudan, and also Mauritania. And the success or otherwise of these of the multinational joint task force is something that we'll look at. But bottom line is that we've also seen recently the activities of Rwanda in East Africa to help the M23 rebel. So if you put all of this together and you recall that once upon a time West Africa had FORIEGN, and which was also helping to fight insurgency. So my take here is that should you be elected Nigeria's president, how do you intend to work with these countries, bearing in mind Nigeria's collaborative efforts in the multinational joint task force?
That's doctrine. If you ask Joshua Dongoyaro, if you ask any of them, if you ask Akinri Ade, if you ask Wushishi. So if you ask at that time, that's the attitude. That was why that you could not ignite anything that is incendiary from Noah Church. Nigeria will say, why are you doing that? That's why we were interested in the Chadian Civil War. I said, well, you guys, I don't know what you are fighting over, but you are here. We can't be making so much noise next door and causing commotion and displacing your population. Now, that doctrine was what made us to form ECOMOG, to say you can't be killing each other in Liberia, it won't be long before the trouble gets here. So that doctrinal problem is what the army has now. The doctrine now stops at the barracks. Anything that doesn't happen inside the barracks, they are not concerned. That is why even in Sambisa Forest, it's treated like a foreign land. And people are talking in terms of, and when I had my conference with retired Air Force officers, I made sure I talked to the fighter pilots. And I asked them a very simple question. I read the reports. I was privileged to read security reports in Liberia. I saw that even in the Mano region with heavy forestation, you were able to pick all these rebels in their caves and hide out. Sambisa Forest is a shrub. It's a shrubland. Why are you not able to nick these people? And it's a doctrinal problem. It's the manner in which the battle order is written. And so it's a matter which, the aspect that intersects international relations is what I want to talk about here. But there are some aspects of it that it's about the deployment of forces. There are some situations, even if you look at the way we set up 7th Division, if you ask Lucky Rabo, who is Chief of Defense now, he was the pioneer GOC for 7th Division. If you look at the doctrine with which 7th Division entered Maiduguri, all those areas, Madagali, and was operating, Handu, Baga, Maiduguri Road, if you see the rapid advance that they made, if you see the orders that followed, there was a doctrinal clash between the GOC, who was making the rapid advance, and the headquarters. So I will handle that at the defense level, internal defense level. But internationally, it is well understood that Nigeria, being a regional power, have the right to be interested in what happens in Sahel. Luckily for us, apart from Mauritania, all of them are under the ECOWAS security, and I've attended a few of the ECOWAS security commission. There's a commission in ECOWAS where all our generals meet. They used to meet even with the Chief Justice and all of that. I was part of those who, when ECOWAS became a commission from the headquarters it was, to excise the judicial side from it and allow the military side to go. So we can handle that. We don't have a problem. We don't have a natural enemy around us in terms of those countries. And because they also understand That way, our army will protect them, our armed defense will protect them. We only need to get the doctrine right. And the commander-in-chief who does not follow the doctrine is a problem. So, as a new commander-in-chief, you will see that at the doctrinal level, we will get it right. So we'll be able to deal with that. But if you look at what you're talking about Rwanda, Rwanda is what we call the Great Lake region. And in going to the Great Lake region, you have to recognize the interests of France, acting for Belgium and European Union. They may complain, but they allow France to lead. The Americans are also having interest in there. So you will see some of the role being played by Rwanda, which is not making Congo happy, it's not making the two Congos happy. Even if you look at Burundi, they are totally unhappy about it. The reason is that America wants to protect its interests there. And the earlier we recognize those interests and use a regional or continental approach to protect those interests, so they won't need a client state, which they will be pumping a lot of money. If you look at the GDP of Rwanda and Egypt share the same GDP structure because of grant and defense spending. Is maybe Pakistan on the other side in Asia is the one competing with them. So our relationship, even when we had a rapprochement between Obasanjo and Qatar, Qatar did not invest, Bush did not invest, Clinton did not invest in Nigerian military. Why? Because they wanted to have a program in the Gulf of Guinea, AFRICOM, which if we have not been able to reconcile our interest and their interest in AFRICOM. So we will not, therefore, as Nigeria, go and dabble in the Great Lake region. What I can do is basically to create a continental platform by which we can assure the Americans that their interests were recognized. Some of it intersect mineral resources and not the rest of it. Some of them intersect humanitarian concern. Some of them are proxy wars between friends who don't want to fight each other but can use you as a cannon fodder. So if we manage that well, I think we'll get the tempo to be okay.
Thank you very much. We're already aware of the war in Ukraine, and I want to ask that based on this concept of concentricism, as well as Adebayo's beneficial and constructive concentricism, what approach should Nigeria have towards the war in Ukraine? You talked about our interests. One of the first things we did, when the war broke out, was to evacuate students who were studying in Ukraine. And even though it took almost a month before they came back home, they eventually came back home and tried to reintegrate into society here. It's been months now since that war has been going on. We've seen more action with NATO allies and so on, but Ukraine has also been trying to garner support from Africa. So what position should Nigeria take?
UN Charter, non-aggression. So at that point, we tell them, you are neither side supposed to have approached the issue aggressively. So we are within our right to reiterate the international doctrine of non-aggression between member states. Since both of them are in the UN, in reality, the only relationship we have with them at a multilateral level is the fact that they're both members of the UN. So the UN framework is enough. Now, our role can be generalist or it can be particular. For example, if it's a time when we are serving as a non-permanent member of the Security Council, we have a more enhanced role to play, because we are now in the Security Council. And if our rightful place is given to us in the Security Council as a permanent member, even without veto in the first instance, then our voice will be heard. So in reality, we can't do beyond what we are doing now, because one, we're not a member of the Security Council, so it's an international conflict of that dimension. So we can only talk as a member of the General Assembly. That's number one. Number two, geopolitically and geostrategically, it will be any bomb will travel very far before it gets to us. So in that situation, we can only use good offices to try to work with them. Thirdly, we need to understand that there are other forces. For example, European Union and the United States. They have their own point of engagement with Ukraine and with Russia. One is militarily useful to them, that's Ukraine. The other is economically useful to them, that is Russia. And if you see the way they've managed it, America has not officially joined. European Union, even Germany, which is closest and has the biggest muscle there, has not joined. So nobody will say, for example, we should contribute troops or we should join. We will just go beyond. And from our own national interests, if we are balancing it, Ukraine is a friendly country to us. We get some wheat from there, that's all good. But Russia is important to us. Russia is important to us in terms of we cannot be an enemy of such a strong country. Two, we need steel, and we have made some investment in Ajaokuta steel. We have Okaba coal. We have other things. We have the aluminum smelter at Ikorabasi. So those are investments we have made. And now, why am I raising this? If a friendly country, including the United States, says that we have to make enmity with Russia, we can legitimately tell them, no, we cannot. Because even you are not making enmity with them. You are still dealing with them. American oil companies are still exploring oil in Russia. So why should I cry more than you, who has a greater stake? But we will continue to engage. We will not say we're not concerned, because there are also humanitarian aspects of it. So if there are aspects of the conflict that's escalating, that's implicating humanitarian concerns, we have a right to raise humanitarian issues. But it's not our fight, but they are our friends.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's not our fight. I'll take the last question from this panel for now.
It's amazing that the war in faraway Ukraine actually exhausts us down here so quickly. Should you be elected president, what are you looking to do in terms of coal, even though we were not affected directly by coal, and specifically wheat production?
Okay, first, we need national security definition. Includes food security. So when we talk of security, people look at AK-47 and somebody in uniform in boots jumping up and down. No, security is beyond that. So we need food security. We need stability of systems. We need stability of supplies. So the war in Ukraine is an opportunity for us, one, to have wheat replacement, because there are many of the grains that we have that have almost the same molecular properties as wheat and have the ability to feed people. So if you look at if you take a bushel of wheat, how many kilojoules of energy are you getting out of it? If you take 1.5 bushels of maize, you get the same kilojoules. So we're really not the type that you worry so much about it. Maybe Egypt will worry more because they eat more bread and all of that. So we can easily replace. And remember that the first thing Balewa tried to do was what was called import substitution. If you study our first development plan, 1960 to 65, the idea was that by 65, we will have excited some industries by which the more sensitive imports will have been substituted locally. That's why we did flour mill, did a few of these things. So, but because we didn't pursue the R&D, which they were doing in Ibadan, Ife, Zukandus at that time, to try to make our flour from non-imported wheat. There was a time we wanted to grow wheat, but we saw that the climate was making it unpredictable because it's a very sensitive grain to grow. There are so many diseases to it. So what we decided was that we're going to make our wheat from, now we are even discussing cassava and all of that. So we can do that very well. But if you go to IITA in Ibadan, you are going to cry, because what we tried to do in IITA in those days, IITA has become like any other regular tourist attraction now. So we will do that. We have food sufficiency. Secondly, in energy sufficiency, we are okay. So first, we have coal in Enugu, up to Benue, drought there. But if we start to work on our coal now, the whole world will pile on us and say, hey, CO2 and all of that, you're not net neutral and all of that. But we have gas, which is the bridge between clean and dirty. So we have more gas in Nigeria than the entire economy of America. So once we have gas, and it's not good for a ship diplomat to say that the conflict is an opportunity. But in reality, the conflict is an opportunity for Europe and North America to try to pivot towards another source of gas. And we are the closest in geography to that. So for us, we can actually see what others see as a problem, as an opportunity to actually retool our economy and be free from all of those issues.
Thank you so much.